Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
Hello, apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to Idle Game Chat. This is Dimp Digital's flagship video game podcast where we take you through the ups and downs of the wonderful world of video games. We are here on your favourite podcast app and YouTube absolutely free. However, if you want to support our independent grassroots endeavour, head over to patreon.com/dimpdigital or twitch.tv/dimpdigital and join the community. Hashtag hand in pocket. This week, I'm once again joined by our resident referee. It's Logan, back after a little break from our, unplanned public holiday we were given for the dear Queen and the state funeral. So we took the week off with that, but back in business for you.
Yep. Back again. Do you know what? I really enjoy the term grassroots. I don't really know what that means in reality because everything was grassroots surely at some point.
Well,
to me, in my head, it means basically like unfunded.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, well, they always refer to Saturday football, Sunday football as grassroots because it's, low rung sort of independents roaring round, just kind of doing it for the fun of it, I guess. And the FA always pledge a lot of money into grassroots football. I don't see anything for grassroots podcasting. Who's the authority on that?
I don't know. Joe Rogan. He's trickled down economics.
He's got enough from fucking Spotify after that deal. Blimey.
Yeah, saying surely the money should be fed down to grassroots podcasts.
Yeah.
To help out.
Never happening in a month of Sundays.
Nope.
But that might be because of the dominant force that probably America plays in the podcasting. That doesn't seem like something they would necessarily fund or look to fund. It would be, make it yourself and get on with it. Whereas, grassroots soccer or football over here, the FA are we're kind of obligated to keep this running.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's one of those sort of political manoeuvres or what, but yeah, I know what you mean. In America, it's very much, or it seems to me to be very much like make it or don't make it yourself.
Yeah,
you ain't getting any help.
Off you go. Probably completely wrong. There's probably funding all sorts out there. Maybe we need to move, and that's where to get the tech money. Yeah, but even that's the reason why that's popular and it's because the universities make absolute fortunes off of the live events and the tech. It's crazy. And
another capitalist endeavour.
It is. They make fortunes off it. You see the people packing out these arenas. So even that's a little bit, only done for the buck of it. Anyway, waffle at the beginning sometimes as per usual. Get straight into FGL updates. Just a quick transfer from Salmon. Got rid of Ship of Fools and got in Return of Monkey Island. And Return of Monkey Island is now out and reviewed, so that transfer was done before the scores came out and before the reviews and before the game came out. Although the requirement is that you get the game in your team as long as the scores aren't published. So you can, in theory, get a game in that's been released and hasn't got a score. That has happened on some occasions, but he got that and it got himself a nice 87. And then to complete his week, Shovel Knight Dig come out as well, come out of the bins. I'd forgotten about that. 85. So Salmon back on track now of an average of 81.
Pulling himself back with these unknown little, call them gems. They're not quite gems, but sort of very solid. You take anything mid-80s.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and he's got two there later on. He's got a Plague Tale Requiem, which is coming soon. Grounded will be coming soon. Company of Heroes, that's the one I'm a little bit unsure of. And also Warhammer 40k Darktide, which has already been delayed once, but pushed to sort of the end of November. So you'd hope that's the last one. But again, he's in that sort of window where if it does get a delay, it's likely to be 2023. And then he's got his trusty World of Warcraft Dragonflight, which he transferred in that expansion pack. So could he shock everyone on his debut, win the Grand Prix? Who knows?
It's unlikely, but you never know.
You never know. Stranger things have happened. Let's get into some of the news and goings on from the video game industry since we last convened. Kick things off with the huge story, really. All sort of rattled off on a Sunday, if I remember correctly. It seems so long ago. But it was this GTA 6 leak and/or hack. So more than 90 videos leaked out onto the internet. An absolute disaster for Rockstar and co, who obviously don't want this stuff getting out unless they've rubber stamped it, because they're very deliberate with their marketing. Always happy to sort of bide their time, change the logo sometimes to the colour scheme. I remember them doing that at Red Dead Redemption 2. Let people talk about that for 2 weeks, then a trailer might come, but a real stinker for them. A small update on the actual case itself. So the UK police have arrested a 17-year-old from Oxfordshire on suspicion of hacking, and it's being claimed by various journalists that this is in relation to the recent GTA 6 hack. It may also be related to the Uber hack, which may well have been the same person. This came from Matthew Keys. So he was confirming that's what it's to do with. And then we're expecting more details on this over the afternoon or this weekend. So for people in the public feed, they may well already know who this chap is. But UK, once again, popping up the rest of the world with some hacking. Or social engineering, I'm led to believe in this case. We'll never find out what it is because they don't want to expose themselves to saying this is how it was done. But the general consensus is some level of social engineering, access to a Slack group, which I can't believe tech firms are using. I really just find that somewhat strange. Not that Slack's bad, but I don't know. That just feels a bit strange to me. That's being rolled out. But in any case,
some of these tech platforms are a bit leaky, I think, aren't they, from a security perspective? Like there's some I know that are just not permitted for business use and stuff, but all these obviously don't care, use those thingy boards and whatnot. I can't think what they're called now.
Yeah.
But anyway,
they've chucked it in there. So did you partake in the leaks or look at anything or monitor what was going on, or was it kind of like, well, almost everything gets leaked these days and it's almost to be expected?
Well, I looked at I found it on Twitter before it got shared in the group. It's those things that I saw and I thought, oh, maybe I'll share that in the group. And I thought, no, this is... I mean, to be honest with you, I looked at the video and it looked rough as arseholes.
Yeah.
And I was like... I just thought it just doesn't look legit. Like there's nothing there that I looked at, and I think it was a clip from 2019 allegedly or something from a really early alpha test, and I was just like, it seemed to me at the time to be a bit of a non-event. I was like, oh, that's sloppy.
Yeah,
it looks like shit. It probably ain't it anyway. It'll probably turn out to be fake news, and so I won't bother sharing it. And about 10 minutes later, Paper shared it, and I was like, hang on about. I didn't share that because I thought it was nonsense.
You got the plaudits for that.
But it turned out to be legit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the end of the world, I don't think. I mean, it's not showing anything that you wouldn't have expected from a GTA game anyway. So I don't think it's devastating from that perspective. But still, you don't want these sort of things happening. I think it's more of a concern for them and a distraction from a security perspective than it is for like worrying about like details of their new IP being released, sort of thing. So yeah, I don't know.
No, I tend to agree. I mean, I had a look at, like you, on Twitter I saw a few videos and there was like some like garbage ones where none of the textures were on. It's like a grey, and I was like, I don't care. And that was like 4 seconds long. And I was like, I don't. It doesn't matter to me because this is old toot basically. It's not going to look great. Therefore, I'm not going to sift through 90 odd tweets or videos to try and find something that's substantial. But then I was watching Sifted's video game podcast, which is Game Face. And what they did is they had the B-roll running in the background whilst they were talking about it. And Shane, like the host, had stitched together all like the interesting bits. So there's a part where the main character's like holding up a cafe or a diner or something. I was like, okay, that's a bit more substantial. So I watched it through that. That podcast inevitably already has been taken down because of copyright.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've already got on top of that. So, but fortunately, they had been sensible and rendered a version of it censored out. So just swapped that in basically. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously very early. The claim, like you said, is it comes from 2019, and it's not put me off what GTA 6 can be, because I understand that this is all early in development stuff. There's fucking lines of code and debug running all over half the screens. It's not really going to.
It's just a bit of a non-event, right?
Yeah.
It's not like one of those things where everyone looks and goes, "Oh, it's rubbish." It's just not going to be.
It won't look like that when it comes out, I can assure you. And
obviously, no.
well, you say that, but then you got stuff like Saints Row being released, and you're like, well, that's not far off. Some of the tootsie in that. That's true. Yeah.
I mean, that's getting picked in fantasy gaming league teams. It just needs questioning.
Well.
So yeah, it was. It's weird because you don't often see. I think it's weird because you don't often see like stuff like that from Rockstar. From memory, they're normally pretty tight on that sort of stuff. Even facts and rumors about the game. It's always rumor or so and so. It's not. It
direct footage. Well, that's quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll probably go down as one of the bigger ones in the industry, because there's a lot of content just dropped out, and that's the surprise really. But you've got to make sure your staff are fucking trained to deal with all this social engineering and phishing and all this.
So basically, he convinced them he was someone else or something like that, or he got himself in on something.
Yeah, maybe they clicked a link and then keylogged and then was able to access their Slack. I mean, like I said, I doubt we'll ever find out, because they won't want to necessarily divulge the details of how it happened. But maybe it'll come out in the police reports and all that sort of stuff. But there could be a 17-year-old from Oxfordshire in a lot of trouble over the next week and couple of weeks, and he may well regret the decision to do that.
That's a fair point.
I wanted to parlay this particular point into leak culture, because video games are very secretive, like the industry itself. At least they try to be. Like, there's always rumour and innuendo, but they very rarely do you know about a project unless, they want to do it for marketing reasons. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we just don't know about. Whereas like movies and stuff, you kind of see years out they're going to attach. We're going to do the next Mad Max, and this is the director, and here's the actors. And then over the next year or two, that all changes because there's a scheduling clash. So Tom Hardy can't do it, and they've brought in Colin Farrell. Like, there's always these changes that from the original vision of like who was scheduled for it doesn't happen. Whereas video games are very secretive, and leaking is a way of, I guess, giving the general public, the nobodies in the world, a little bit of insight as to what is going on in this ultra secretive world. But is there a level of hypocrisy from some journalists, insiders / influencers who are quick to criticise a leak like this, but often have built some of their major stories off of information they've gathered from inside sources, and revealing information that a publisher or developer wouldn't necessarily want in the public at that time? Now, obviously, there's differences in how the information's acquired. The chap here seemingly has illegally got this from hacking, which is obviously illegal. So that's the first kind of difference. But I always go back to like who the people are talking to, who the journalists are talking to, who the insiders are talking to, like who's the source. They are inevitably breaking some level of employee policy or NDA or something when they're revealing this.
Yeah.
So it's ill-begotten gains, that information. It's not like it's public knowledge or anything like that. So is it just the method in which the information's extracted, and then who publicises that and says, well, look, I didn't actually gather this information, I've just been told it, I've been shown this document, that kind of lets them off the hook? And because the way I look at it, in some respects, and yes, there are different degrees to this. There's minor leaks and something major like this, but the net kind of outcome is that publisher / developer is damaged in some way because there's information out they didn't want. So I just wanted to gather your thoughts on that particular question.
It's a difficult one because you look at what like Project Veritas do in the US, where they go around basically exposing whistleblowers. That's what they do. everyone's clapping their hands at it, going, "This is great journalism and exposing stuff." I mean, it's the thing is in any organisation, it seems, there's people that are just quite happy to talk about anything, and I don't particularly understand why. I guess the answer is one seen as good journalism, and hacking, quite simply, is they haven't got an exclusive, have they? All they're doing is reporting on something that someone else has done. But weirdly, on a different note, it got me. Obviously, I saw all the leak around GTA, and then I saw what Midnight Society are doing at the same time, which is releasing all these snapshots and playable snapshots to the community and their founders group to play and get feedback on. I thought that's two completely contrasting approaches.
Yeah.
And it actually got me thinking, I wonder whether, depending on how well this game does that Midnight Society are developing, if that does really well and they're really engaged with the community, I wonder whether you'll see more take this engaged approach rather than this, using the Rockstar example where nothing gets released, they give you a little bit of teaser, and then you play it day one, and that's your first real experience to it beyond a few gameplay trailers or whatever. I don't know. It just got me wondering whether that's, and then you don't have to worry about leaks. You don't have to worry about secrecy and all that kind of stuff, and it kind of is all taken away.
Yeah, it would absolutely solve a lot of the issues. It goes back to what I was saying to start with, and how secretive the video game industry is.
Why do you think that is, though? Like, do you think it's to build hype, or you don't want competitors stealing your ideas, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've got my only. There's a couple of ways you can kind of look at it as to why that is, and I don't know. I mean, there's. I was going to say maybe that the industry's not mature enough to handle. Like, we are quick to judge things that don't look spotless. It's kind of different with a movie or a TV show or anything like that. But they do seem to protect the idea before anything else. Like, the idea of a game being made and what's going on is really held back for a much longer time. And I can only assume that the people that run the publishing sites and the count the money, see that having ultimate control over the marketing and when to do things is a very delicate and strategic game, especially in a busy schedule of games that are being released. But I mean, it's somewhat bizarre in that we know so much stuff about other industries well before they're even due to start shooting the damn thing. Whereas in the video game industry, the first time you'll see something most likely will be, we're sort of halfway through this. And, maybe it's, again, project life cycles take much longer, and do you want to tell someone 7 years? Because there's the other thing. If you tell someone there's a game coming and it doesn't come for 7 years, people get sick of it, don't they, of hearing about it. So I don't know if I'd necessarily want to know 7 years out that GTA 6 was coming. So yeah, there's no real answer I've given there other than waffle. But I don't.
Well, no, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just interesting to hear, because it is, in most industries, there's an element of secrecy. Like in football, you don't want other clubs knowing what players you're going for. So there's always secrecy around the transfer targets and whatnot. So there's always an element to it. But with something like a game, I mean, take a Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Like, would it really matter whether we saw and knew exactly what was going on in a Call of Duty game?
No.
3 months, 6 months, 9 months before.
Nope.
Because what does it really affect? I just wonder whether it's just a purely marketing-based angle on creating hype. I wonder if that's what it is, and it's because you can get excited about something that you've only seen a little bit of something of. Is it? I don't know. I'm sure there must be some sort of marketing reasons, but I just thought I'd gauge your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, if I had my way and I was doing it, I'd be the same, I think. Because I think there is a risk of overexposure, and who knows what games are scrapped 2 years in that don't make it. So you don't want to be saying, "Oh, we're going to do this," and then 18 months later you go, "Well, that's gone in the bin." Because because you see
What
me.
happens with films?
It does, but there's definitely a
Batwoman one.
that's
That's
Trat and it. Batgirl, isn't it? That's thrown in the bin.
Yeah.
I mean, it does happen with films, but I guess the studios are in a better position. I don't know whether it's financially or what to kind of absorb that as a negative. Whereas, we've seen studios get shuttered for making mistakes, and I don't know. I feel like there's a bit more of a microscope put on it. Maybe it's just because we do a podcast about it that it feels that way. It may well be that actually, if you look closer, but that would happen elsewhere. But no, it's a tricky one. But I don't think things will change anytime soon. Like you said about Midnight Society being more open, some games do that. That is definitely a tactic. But I just think that the bigger boys think, well, we'll control it. We'll control the narrative as best we can, and see what happens. And then the people in the marketing team can say, "Yep, that was our campaign that did all that and built hype." Because it's very fickle, this land of video games, and the gaming gods are happy to strike down any video game that doesn't fall in line. So there's always that concern.
Be interesting. I do hope that the Midnight Society stuff does produce something good at the end of it, because I think that would, and something that's popular, not just good. I think they're the two things. Something that's because it can be good but unpopular. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. But anyway, let's move on. Don't want to labour on that.
PlayStation VR 2 won't have backwards compatibility with PlayStation VR, Sony confirms. So there's a head shake immediately from Logan. So seemingly more egg on face and bad publicity for Sony.
I think this is one that I remember sharing in the group or seeing from VGC, and it's just such a diabolical thing to do. Like to go all of that catalogue that we made. Sorry about that.
It's gone.
You can either not play it anymore, or you'll have to keep your old VR headset as well. Because presumably people that would be interested in this might. You'd presume they'd also perhaps have had the last one.
Or maybe they've looked at the numbers and thought people have been put off by PSVR, so they've already been burnt. Let's just bin them and try and get a fresh set of people onto PSVR 2.
Just basically makes all those games redundant. It
does.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to come across as a Sony apologist here, but I'm going to do my best to explain why I think this has happened. And then don't worry, at the end, I'll cycle back to, even with this caveat, why they're at fault completely, 100%. So don't, Greenbloods out there don't like hearing people saying sorry for Sony, but don't worry, they'll get their just desserts right at the end. So with this one, it's VR itself as a technology is complex. We know that, for lack of a better term. Yeah. If you look at how PSVR 2 is being operated and used by a potential consumer compared to PlayStation VR OG, yes, it's virtual reality, but the basic fundamentals of it are completely different. So PSVR 2 has inside-out tracking, so there's no need for a camera to track your head movement. The controllers are completely different. The dual, whatever they're calling them, dual touch, I think they're called. They are hugely different compared to the PlayStation Move controllers. So I don't think there's any way they can realistically map a lot of these games to say, right, you pick up the new headset and logic the games so that they would work properly with all this new gear that's being put out. So they're kind of... It would be down, I would assume the developer would have to go in there and remap everything, recalibrate it towards the new technology. Now that may well happen with some games. Some developers might jump in and say, we've forward ported this to a new PSVR 2 version, and it maps with the new head tracking and all that sort of stuff. So I just think that the technology has cost them here. They've not a lot really, realistically, I don't think they could have done, other than spending a hell of a lot of time and money and other things going back to try and recalibrate it. But even then, it might not even be possible. Having said that, the reason why they're doing that is because they based the PlayStation VR OG on the PlayStation Move and PlayStation camera technology. PlayStation Move came out in 2010. It's 12 years old. PlayStation camera 2013. Almost 10 years old. If you're gonna, it's this short-sighted approach that Sony have made before, and the other example of that is PlayStation 3. They go, we've made this fucking super-duper console. PlayStation 4 rocks up and you go, well, backwards compatibility, and they go, well, we can't because it's so complicated that we can't even do it reasonably. So that was another short-sighted manoeuvre. Sony just seemed to make these odd choices of limiting any forward, development in those spaces. So it's absolutely their fault for basing the PlayStation VR on a PlayStation Move controller and a PlayStation camera when already we were starting to see technologies that didn't require old crap like that. Had they just bitten the bullet a little bit, maybe been patient, they could have done inside out tracking from the get-go, and had the controllers not based on 2010's PlayStation Move. Like, PlayStation Move's got about 8 buttons on it, which are all mapped to specific things in the games. They'll then have to look at the new controller and go, that's only got 4. How do we even realistically do that? But again, it's because they weren't thinking forward back when they released the PlayStation VR. They thought, well, let's get this out there with all this old shit we've got lying around and haven't sold, the PlayStation Move controller, and we're off. So it is their fault, ultimately.
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying. It's difficult because it's like, we'd be sitting here blasting them if we were going, you're still using that camera on your second,
Oh, yeah.
But
yep.
It's as you say, it's like a short-sighted approach where they just want to get stuff out into the market without thinking properly of their strategy behind that product.
No, they just chucked it out there. They saw that it might catch on and thought, well, we want to be in a position to have something. And to be fair, it did pretty well, but easily within a few years, it was surpassed by other technologies and other headsets that came across. And
they must have known as well, which is what annoys me. They must have known that was going to have a short-ish shelf life on it when they released it. Yeah, I just think it's really, really poor from a consumer perspective.
Oh yeah, it is.
It's like buying a new phone and then going, well, all those apps you want it to use, well, you have to buy new ones. You go, well, I've already bought. You've got to have some sort of ability to reuse your old stuff on the new tech, I think. Obviously, you get a different console, you kind of expect there's going to be, things aren't going to be designed for it immediately and whatnot. So it's fine, but at least the problem is Xbox set such a high bar.
Yeah, I was going to say
for backward compatibility.
Yep.
So they're not out there they're out there in isolation, pretty much doing this, and that's what makes it look even poorer when you look at the variety that Xbox offer games going all the way back to the original Xbox. You can play them now on your Series X.
Yep.
And they continue to make more available. So, I just think it's really bad form.
Oh yeah, it's another slap on the wrist. And even if I understand why, the reason why is because they, as I said, what I often say to you, short-sighted.
Yeah,
it'll cost you. What do you think of this one? Electronic Arts CEO Andrew Wilson has said that Call of Duty potentially becoming an exclusive to Xbox platforms would present a, quote, tremendous opportunity for Battlefield. Speaking during a Goldman Sachs event, fucking money floating around there, and was first reported by journalist Stephen Tortillo, Wilson said he sees the uncertainty over the rival franchise as a potential opportunity for his own first-person shooter. Quote, in a world where there may be questions over the future of Call of Duty and what platforms that might be or might not be on, being platform agnostic and completely cross-platform with Battlefield, I think, is a tremendous opportunity. First of all, bravo for having the stones to come out and suggest that Battlefield's in any position to ask for opportunities after 2042, because it doesn't matter what platform it's on. If you ship out more trash like that, you ain't going to have any opportunities left soon, fucking sunshine. So ignoring the obvious fucking unbelievable bollocks on this man to stand there and say that, does he have a point? If Battlefield can ship a good product and be on all platforms, could it... If all the stars aligned, Phil went, taking that on our own platforms, goodbye. Does not having the Battlefield sit on the current market leader on consoles give it a chance to bed in and perhaps, build up some genuine rivalry to Call of Duty?
Well, not really. I just don't. Call of Duty is so far and away, like, in every single way better than Battlefield at the minute. I mean, and by the way, I bloody love Battlefield. I have Battlefield 4. I played a lot of Battlefield 1. You name it. If it's there and it's good, I will enjoy and will want to play it. So I'm not a Battlefield hater at all. Far from it. But it has to be said, they are completely different games. Like, they're not. I don't really see
Point and
them.
shoot, job done.
Yeah, but they're not. Like, the way that what Call of Duty does, it does really well, and it provides a huge amount of value. Like, pretty much whatever you want to do on it, it caters for you. Less so. I always thought the gap was these bigger maps and bigger battles, but I feel like Warzone's kind of covered them on that a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're just so far on a way ahead of Battlefield now. I don't understand.
Well, we say that Vanguard sales in the shitter. We're going to go to the European game sales listed a little bit, and you know, I know Modern Warfare 2. I feel that's going to be a fucking ginormous hit. So Vanguard's blower will be made up for, I'm sure. But it proves they're not immune.
Well, they're not. But this is what frustrates me around that, and we could go on for ages here. But around these sort of different studios that develop the games and stuff. I mean, the ones that Infinity Ward are involved in are by far and away the best and most successful versions of Call of Duty. Treyarch aren't too far behind, but Sledgehammer are diabolical. Like, they've had a couple of goes lately. They had the World War II one that they did a couple of years back, and then they did Vanguard, and they've made a real pig's ear of both of them. And it does make me wonder at what point they get binned. Like, will they trust them with another one now that Phil's in charge? I don't know. But I think the franchise is
Don't worry, he'll put
343
on it and save the day.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Just the people you want to bring something out the bins. They'll introduce some ridiculous battle pass mechanism. But yeah, I mean, looking at it, if Battlefield could release something that was actually good, and catered in a similar way that Call of Duty does, there's a chance there for them to absorb, the PlayStation marketplace. But unfortunately, I just, for some reason, despite being backed by EA and you name it, I just don't understand why they fail to be able to release a good, solid game. It baffles me. So
it's kind of worse for them as well, because they don't do it yearly. They only get a shot at it every few years, and if they blew it with 2042, that sour taste sits in everyone's mouth for years on end. And they're like, well, what's the next one going to be like? And it's hard. Whereas Call of Duty's always had the ability and it's a useful thing to have. The next game will be coming out in less than 12 months, so don't worry about it. And Infinity War's back, and you've got these.
This is the thing.
You've got these reasons why people might believe it's going to be a better product.
I mean, the free developer thing that they've got going in with Call of Duty works to their favour and their disadvantage.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's shit, they go, well, it's Infinity, like you said, it's Infinity Ward next year, that'll be good.
Yeah.
So it keeps you hanging around because the same people aren't there making the same mistakes. But unfortunately with Battlefield, I mean, they cater largely to a different audience anyway.
Yeah.
I doubt there's many people that are going, oh, it's Call of Duty or Battlefield for me this year. I think you're either generally one or the other. But I think if Call of Duty isn't an option for you, it clearly opens up the field for Battlefield to take some sort of advantage. But they've got to release a bloody good game first anyway. Otherwise, people ain't going to play it, whatever the weather. They'll just go and buy an Xbox.
Yeah. So don't be worrying about all that, Andrew. Because A, it's many years down the line, and B, you need to focus on shipping something that's going to be playable and good.
It's really simple. If it's a good game, it'll do better than Call of Duty. Like it's like if you release something that's good and resonates, and you get streamers on it, and it builds hype, and people want to play it, then people will play it anyway.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem with Battlefield is it hasn't been very good for a while, and that's its problem.
Yeah, no. Now, to be fair, EA have made, I think, on paper, some smart moves. So, Respawn, who did Titanfall and Apex, co-founder Vince Zampella, who co-founded Respawn, and then EA bought them, etc., etc. He was made, I think, late last year, the head of Battlefield as a franchise, and he's obviously got some real pedigree in the shooting space on how to do things. So I think clearly EA have recognised 2042's. You couldn't not recognise it, but I feel like they're at least putting someone who's got some real good credentials in charge of that. Doesn't mean it's going to come out perfect, but Vince is not a silly person. He's at Infinity Ward all those years when they were the top dog, peeled off, done Respawn, did it again, got bought, then did it again with Apex, which is a battle royale take. So, you know, he's a clever bloke when it comes to these things, and I wonder whether that's maybe what's going to turn it next time. And we can only hope, because I don't want any game to be shit. I want it all to be. I want to be able to want to play everything, but
it'd be a start if I pointed the gun at someone and wherever I was pointing and the bullets went, because that ain't what happened on 42. You literally point the gun, you go, well, I can't do any more. I'm aiming down sights, he's in my crosshairs, and I ain't getting any hit markers. So what do you do?
Have to walk away from it, unfortunately. But we'll see on that. I don't think he's necessarily wrong in what he's saying, but to just have any sort of gall to think that it can have a positive spin on things after what they've done with 2042, I found astounding. But they'll never cease to amaze me, some of these leads. They will just say what they want and get away with it mostly. Probably an absolute packet is Wilson. Anyway, European sales ranking. So we've got August data in. So quick rundown. So this is based on European territories, digital and physical. However, Nintendo are one of the publishers that don't provide digital sales, so that's worth keeping into account. So number one this month was GTA 5. Last month, GTA 5, so that's back at it again. Number two, crapped on it earlier, Saints Row. So that's debuted there at number 2. FIFA retains number 3 slot, even though the season's, well, not winding down, but we're getting close to 23, so that's still selling throughout the entire year. F1 sits at number 4, so that's hanging in there more than I expected. Gran Turismo 7 re-enters the fray at number 5. Spider-Man Remastered enters the fray at number 6, mainly down to the PC port that was released. So you can see why Sony have decided that was a good idea when they count the money at the end of August. Nintendo Switch Sports returns after being out of the top 10 for a little while. Now number 7. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is number 8. Horizon Forbidden West again returns to the top 10 at number 9. And number 10 is Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. So, interesting. So what I did, I don't know if you probably didn't listen to the podcast, I made something called the European Power Rankings. And we get a top 20, but I ain't dealing with top 20. You've got to have top 10s. If you're in the top 10 and you're number 1, you get 10 points. If you're 2, you get 9 points, and if you're 10th, you get 1 point. That's how I've done it. I've been scoring all the data we've had, and I've backdated it to February where it started. I've made a power rankings of like who's been in the top 10 the most. So at the moment, FIFA has got 57 points and is the title taker. Grand Theft Auto is number 2 with 51 points. Elden Ring 36 at number 3. Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is number 4 with 35 points.
That's unbelievable.
And number 5 is Nintendo Switch Sports with 28 points. And that is, again, physical sales only. But I'd just like to share that when we get that a little update. And what I was going to say actually about Call of Duty is January we haven't got any data for, so I can't speak for that. But from February until August, which is what we have now, hasn't been in the top 10 once of the European.
That doesn't surprise me.
I mean, no, it doesn't. When you actually look at what was coming out, that they've dropped 40% compared to the year before. But normally it just, by inertia, just finds a way in. They go,
Vanguard was so bad.
I know.
Vanguard was so bad that I just think people went, nah. I think, and also the continued success of Warzone, that people can play it for nothing.
Yeah. Right.
I think people are, and I was chatting to Pee Wee earlier. He's like, I ain't pre-ordering Modern Warfare. He's like, I'm waiting for Warzone.
Yeah.
That's what people are doing. It is just the way things are going now. So I'd expect Modern Warfare to be up there when it releases and perhaps for a few months. But I think you probably find now that most people will get it, that want to get it. There won't be this continued trickle of top 10 sales for it. The majority of those will continue to be transactions in Warzone and probably Warzone Mobile.
Wow. That's true. Yeah. That'd be interesting to see next year. Well, Modern Warfare 2 is clearly going to be, unless they do something horrendous with it, it will clearly be a monster. Let's move into Warzone 2. You mentioned that. That got a release date, 16th of November 2022. Modern Warfare is 28th of October 2022. From my untrained and uninitiated eyes, that seemed like a bit of a fast follower for me for Warzone 2.0. For some reason in my head, and this may well have been because I've read articles suggesting this, 2023 early would be the place to do it. But no, it's a mere weeks after the release of the franchise version, as I call it. Any thoughts on that, and any thoughts on any of the showcases or things that they showed? Because I know they did a big Call of Duty event since we last convened, and anything there that tickled your fancy?
There was a lot of bollocks at that event.
I saw you all moan about it in the group. And what is this?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I can't remember the word. It was something like inverse mechanic. It was something ridiculous, and I was just like, at that point, I was like, look, I can't be dealing with this. You're using the same engine you were last year. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Nonsense.
But I've watched some gameplay and everything in Modern Warfare, and it pretty much looks to be what I'd expect from an Infinity Ward game. I don't think at this point with Call of Duty we're going to see anything outrageous. There's they've made, I'll say, some couple of nice additions, right? You can now mantle and climb and stuff, which by the way, get hand on it in 2022 is quite unbelievable, really. But yeah, they've made a few little changes and some tweaks to weapon modification stuff. I mean, to be brutally honest, it's like I don't need or feel the need a huge amount of time doing this now. I mean, years ago I'd have been itching to get on a beta and go, what's changed this year? And now I just go, well, I've been doing this for 15 years now. Like, nothing really, or longer than that, 17 years maybe, I think I've been playing Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And it's like, nothing fundamental is going to change. I'm going to pick it up and go, oh yeah, this is Call of Duty. Like, and that's fine. I don't mind that. I mean, I will play that beta.
Yeah.
Just to see if there's anything I've drastically missed. But
well, you had feet up on that, didn't you? Sitting there, it was open for all PlayStation players last weekend, and you had feet up.
Yeah, it's still open. Yeah. I missed. I had presumed that it was because on the Xbox it's only open the beta. They call it an open beta, but it's not really open because you have to pre-order it to be able to play it. So. I just presumed it was the same for PlayStation, but it isn't. They've got it completely open. So yeah, I'll be giving that a little go.
Yeah.
But I think it seems like they're trying to do more from a marketing perspective this year, because I don't think they've done these kind of big events. They've got all the big streamers in and big YouTube personalities. It has to be noted, other than Dr. Disrespect, which I thought was a really interesting omission, and he addressed this on stream a little while ago because they said they didn't invite him because he slagged the game off too much. Wow. And then he did this compilation for about 3 minutes afterwards of all these other streamers that have consistently slagged the game off but still got an invite. Yeah. So it's interestingly political. But yeah, they're obviously trying to market this one a bit more and do things a bit more in this, like keynote style and doing it. Like they're trying to catch up on that piece. But I mean, on the release dates, I think I'm fine with that. I think the only thing that would have surprised me if Warzone come first. Clearly, the game's got to come first. And I think they want to probably get Warzone in on that hype of the new Call of Duty and get people on there. And I think I've told you before
get that synergy that they can set up early doors and
get people leveling up guns and doing all that for Warzone and finding out metas and stuff. So that's probably not wholly unexpected. That it's pretty close to follow. Plus, because it's such a big bloody money maker, and they're probably seeing those numbers starting to dwindle a bit now on Warzone because people know that it's
winding
down. It's winding down.
And it's not carrying much over, is there?
I don't think there's any carryover.
I mean, we just slagged Sony for doing that. They've just been crapped on for very complex technology, as I explained, and now we've got.
Well, they've fucked Warzone. There's too much on there now. They've been the masters of their own downfall. We talk about continuity, but you've got Modern Warfare, Black Ops, and World War II guns on there. It's absolute. Yeah, it's a muddle. So yeah, I think I'll be pleased if they just have Modern Warfare guns. Don't release a Call of Duty next year. Give Warzone and this Modern Warfare 2 a good 2-year sort of cycle. Add new guns by all means into the game and whatnot. Fine with that, and I'm sure they will do. They've been doing that for a while now. But yeah, yeah, I hope it will be good. I hope it's well received.
I'm sure it will be at the end of the day. Unless they, of course, blow something completely. But yeah, from my perspective, the one thing that would be pleasing to me and Ronnie, even though I never picked up a game of Warzone, the only reason I didn't play it when it first came out, and when Hall was like, "Come on, I've played, done Apex, beaten that, won that once, done Fortnite, beaten that once as groups, never as solo." Warzone, I refused to pick up because it's probably still the case now. When you would play it, it would say Call of Duty Modern Warfare because it was linked to that, and that was where it stemmed off from. Ronnie said, "No, you're not playing that." It's Warzone.
Really?
Yeah, it annoyed me. So I never put it on. I'm assuming that will not happen, and it will be called Warzone 2.0. So old Ronnie could potentially pick that up, but
I don't think it will. I think it'll do what it does now.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, I think it will.
Well, it don't bother me. I've gone this long without playing it. I'm not gonna. Like I said, I'll play it until I get one win, and then I quit. That's how I complete.
Yeah, I know. I do remember because I know that we played both of them together, both Fortnite and Apex. I don't think we got the win together on Apex, but I know we played for it a little bit on there.
Hall and Parky carried me through there. He carried me. I've got the most kills, so.
And to be fair to you, Apex is a really hard one to get a win on. It's really, compared to the others, it's a much more. I think it was
quite. Game. I think it was quite early. Not like mega early, but at a stage where people weren't absolute animals at it. And
go on there now, you could have a real shock. I think.
Well, Hall's a fucking blunderbuss, always looking for trouble. Whereas that's not the way to be doing it. Like, if you want to win, you need to be a bit strategic. And I've seen him do it on fucking Warzone as well, and pretty much throw away a good chance at winning it just by following gunfire and wanting to get involved. So he's not.
Yeah, it's a common complaint that me and Pete have at the minute on Warzone when we play with some of the others. It's kind of like they see someone and want to shoot.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you going to do?
Well, you did it on the Division 2, setting them all off. I've got this artillery thing that can blow them away in one shot.
I know, yeah. I've got, but I think it don't matter on there.
No,
I think they're just going to go and hide behind a bit of cover anyway. It's no problem. But yeah, no, I'm hopeful it will be good, and because I am a Call of Duty fan, obviously, it's like I really don't want it. I don't want to shit on it. I don't want it to be bad. I don't want it to have negatives. I want it to be really good, and I want to play it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Modern Warfare is my all-time favourite line, if you like, of Call of Duty. So
as it is for millions of others, I would predict if I had to have a gun.
Do you know what? People prefer Black Ops.
A
large majority prefer that Treyarch style.
That's true.
Which I don't really understand, to be honest.
Well, coming from my perspective, I know a lot of people like the campaigns in Black Ops, or when they did. I know one year they didn't do it in the Black Ops, but there was like you could. I remember I played through maybe it's the first one. And there was like choices, and you could have different endings and stuff, which never really seemed like it was part of or on the cards for Call of Duty. So I can see why that maybe attracts that crowd. But yeah, you're right. On the multiplayer side, that is of a common, I suppose with Modern Warfare, it kind of went away for a while after 3. So it was left to Black Ops to pick up the slack. And now with this reimagining of Modern Warfare, they've kind of they've got a good franchise name there. But interesting. Well, if you do play the beta, obviously we'll have you back on to give thoughts on that, and maybe you'll glean us some hands-on experience. CD Projekt Red says that Cyberpunk 2077 is now attracting 1 million players daily. They also
an interesting stat.
They also thank players for a quote-unquote second chance following a recent resurgence. This has been attributed to the Netflix series in some aspects, the Edge Runners anime that's gone out, which I've heard good things about, but don't want to play it to have watched it to have played the game. So Ronnie's, putting restrictions in about what can be watched now, which is ridiculous, but that's what can happen. Yeah, I mean, since that announcement, since that's released, they've had a resurgence. They announced there's also going to be an expansion drop coming, which, if you compare that to the Witcher's expansion pass, I think that's the best DLC I've ever played. Like, it was basically a new campaign, and I was like, unbelievable. So has CD Projekt Red over time? Do you believe that they've actually been given a second chance? I mean, the stats suggest that there's a resurgence in the game itself in popularity, but sometimes the perception doesn't change. But we think of something like No Man's Sky, a real stinker, flat out lied, said there was multiplayer in the game, wasn't. Flat out lied that was in the game, and
I remember when we picked that up and we went, "This ain't multiplayer.
This ain't multiplayer. There's no one here." And there was, within the day, people were saying, "Oh, there's reports coming out. Oh yeah, we went to the same planet at the same time. There's no one there." And like it seemed like the curtain sort of came down over that sort of week after people got their hands on it. But again, to be fair to them, over hard work, lots of free paid updates, that's now borderline forgotten about. People think it's great that that's still going on and living. So have CD Projekt Red managed to do that, and do they ultimately do they deserve it?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you should say that, because I was looking at this in the store the other day and I just thought, I'd really like to just give this a go if I knew that it was in the state that if I got the thumbs up from them to say this is now in the right state, I'd still like to play it.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it?
It's a tricky one, because at what point does that come, and who's going to give that go ahead? I mean, I don't
know. Can they ever say that?
Well, this is the thing, but you shouldn't have to say it, because the moment you release it, that should be the rubber stamp to say that is good to go. But unfortunately, this one wasn't, for a variety of reasons.
No.
I hope it does get another go. I hope it does, and I hope people have forgiven it. And I think redemption can occur.
Yeah.
But I feel like they've got to do more publicly to address that.
So my view is, so they have said in the last, probably 12 months ago, they said that performance had reached a satisfying level. Doesn't mean it's necessarily great, but that's kind of like the bugbears of it. Oh, yeah. But for me, the way I've had this on the PlayStation Store in my account for over a year now. Adcock procured it for me through. He said, "I'm not going to play it. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Oh, absolutely, I will play. I will play that one day when it gets to this, whatever this level is." And to me, it felt like when they released the next gen patch for the current gen, I guess, patch for the Xbox Series X and PS5, where they got in more features, they shored things up. That was kind of the time I was going to jump in. But then I got wind of this paid DLC they're going to be planning. I thought, well, that feels like the appropriate time to jump in, because there's other big fixes. Like, they want to fix things like the police and how they operate and conduct themselves in the world. Apparently it's not very good, so that's going to get revamped. And they're saying this is going to be sort of the only paid expansion to the game. So for me, that's the moment. I think you could jump in now. Many people have said since that patch went in for the next gen or the current gen, it's basically you would never really know. It's still got bugs and whatnot, as any game has. It's never going to be 100% perfect, and maybe just the stink of its release will always make you think and notice things more, because you'll be like, well. But
I just think I think in my head I've got a sneaky suspicion it might end up on Game Pass.
I mean, it should be.
That's what if it was on Game Pass, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And I think I'm in no rush to play it, but I think it feels like it's going that way.
Yeah.
I don't know why, or that's based on nothing other than me thinking, I could see that happening.
Yeah.
So I think either an acceptable price point or Game Pass would get me involved with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the simple answer to your question is, they can come back, but I think I don't know whether they're a victim of I'm not even sure it was them that really created the hype. I mean, clearly it released in a state that was not acceptable. But even that, I don't know whether it was them or just the people just created hype around a game that was never going to meet that, even in its best state.
Yeah, I mean, it was a difficult bar that they've been set by their previous game, to be fair, and the people at large, journalists, etc. But it was pretty diabolical. And you know what? I mean, I've heard the theory go out and the statement saying, well, people don't agree with the I guess the theory that dropping last gen support makes any difference. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want this to be on PS4 and Xbox One because it's holding back games." I think Cyberpunk's a very good user case to prove that actually is the case, because a lot of the stuff that you see in terms of like how bad it was running on the Xbox One and PS4 editions. It just was too much for those consoles. And bearing in mind that's where most of the market is at the time and was back then, it undoubtedly crapped on them. Because I don't know if you remember, when the game came out, they released the PC code for the first few days. This is how you lost out in the Fantasy Game League, of course you know. Chapper's got a 91 for that, because the day the window closed, that's what the score was. Within 10 days, it was down to a 70. Because all the other systems like PS4, Xbox One, and had been released. So clearly, at some point, there was a game that people felt was good, and on the PC side, they kind of got away with it. But I do think that this is a bit of a tale for people to remember, that a lot of the problems stems from them having to support the old crap hardware. And you can say, well, the feature set was the same. You say, yeah, it didn't run. And imagine how much time they spent building it for that 2013 old 2 just slagged Sony off these Move controllers and this camera same year, and we're expecting one of the next gen looking fucking games of that time to come out and do well on it.
I don't know why it's kind of been lost these days, right? But why not just release a new console with a game that goes, this is what this can do?
Well,
you ain't gonna get it anywhere else.
Sony did kind of do that.
Console. Yeah, they did.
They've done a few PS5s, not many, but they have done at least a few PS5s. Phil launched with nothing, so what was he going to show? But I'll go and play Assassin's Creed. Thanks, Phil. He's all right. You'll get Halo next year and Forza Horizon. Oh, okay, and Starfield after that. No, nothing this year.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
No.
But yeah, I still want to. It's still on my radar. It's not disappeared.
I'm sure it was a tenner one. Like, it has been really cheap at times, and on Steam this was half price for a little while during this period. So I imagine that's got more people in. But honestly, it's been dirt cheap and probably will be. Phil should be getting this on Game Pass, really, or Jim put it on his PlayStation catalogue. Either or.
He ain't doing that. He ain't putting hand in pocket, is he?
No, he's not. He's putting hand in my pocket and taking it for himself. Last one, probably won't have much to say other than it's just a bit of an eye-waterer. Nvidia announced the latest generation of its graphics card, headlined by the RTX 4090. The card, which it's claimed runs Flight Simulator at 2 to 4 times the speed of the current highest tier 3090 card, will retail for $1,599. So that's the top end. Then you've got the 4080, which are the step downs. That's going to have 2 versions of it. You've got a 16 gigabyte GDDR. You can tell we don't know anything we're talking about here. For £1,200, and then a 12 gigabyte version for £900. I say dollars, but often they will just be the same over here.
They don't. Yeah, I mean, it's getting to 1 for 1 now anyway.
Well, I saw that fucking pound slide today and thought, wow.
Yeah. So
that euro's got under it. It's
well,
gone under the dollar.
You're saying it's not right, but it is pretty much as good as correct. It doesn't matter now whether it's dollars or pounds because the exchange rate is so piss poor.
It used to be 2 to 1.
Yeah, I know. It's insane. It's really poor.
Oh dear. So is this going to tempt you into jump into Master Race finally?
No. I mean, look, the simple fact is I don't need anything near that really for what I'd want to do. But I know that when I was looking at it, was it last year? Might have been the year before now. I can't remember. Might have been 2020 I was sniffing.
That COVID's ruined things because you lose 2 years and thought it was 1.
Well, yeah, basically.
All timelines from late 2019 through to 2022 have been blown for me. I don't know what was going on then.
No. I think there's been too much food and too much alcohol, and it's just all a bit of a blur. But yeah, I think I was looking at a 3000 series then, and I was like, even at those price points, I was like, this is just unpalatable for what I want to use it for.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it's the same situation where I went, well, do I need something like that? And it's like, well, no, but you find yourself in 6 months thinking about an upgrade, and that's the trouble with it. But God knows if you wanted to do a new build with one of those top end cards now, I mean, it's going to be $3,000 to $4,000, surely.
Yeah, it is. That's why my belief is that there's not a lot of crossover between a console player looking to go into PC. You might get a few drop down out of the PC, like filter down from the PC market, but it's just a different world financially in terms of what you're willing to spend. I don't think a lot of like old school console players have the appetite to spend that level of money on a bit of hardware. It's it really is for the enthusiasts. It really is.
And and for the record, I originally started out predominantly as a PC gamer.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, I used to play Counter-Strike.
It's when you didn't have to buy the thing though.
This is the thing.
That was just in the house.
Yeah, I just used it and it works. It's not a problem. But even back then, I had problems getting it running sometimes, and you get all these issues and errors. I ain't got time for that these days. No. I get a very small window when I can get on and play games now, and I don't want to be faffing around on a PC, unfortunately.
No. Instead, you'll faff around waiting for updates to go in, so you'll lose the time another way.
Well, yeah, but at least you're minimising the possibilities of things that need doing. And look, I think there's a good pool, and I know there's loads of stuff that's going on with the PC lot in Dimp and stuff, and you know I would like to get involved with stuff like that, but the price of doing it just I'm just like I to play the stuff that's on offer really it's just kind of like, and I'm chatting to Hall, I know that there's a better experience to be had as well. Like, I'm not saying that it's not, you don't get something for your money, because you definitely do.
Oh,
but
yeah.
For the sweet spot, I think for me at the moment is still in console. Like for price, performance, convenience, it just ticks all of my boxes, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't believe how expensive those cards are. It's insane.
No.
I don't even think that the 3000 series, when that first come out, that they were that dear. I think they were topping out around $1,000 or something. But
well, the blow on that side was they were immediately unavailable.
Well,
because they just sold out so quickly. So that was the stinker. There was that any price that was retail price was almost gone.
Scarcity.
Yeah, it was. There weren't enough of them.
Price, yeah.
Nvidia CEO, we'll end it on this, says declining GPU prices are, quote, a thing of the past. So don't be expecting the 50 series to be any cheaper than what the 40 series is. Time to put hand in pocket. And if you want to put hand in pocket here, patreon.com/dimpdigital is the place to go, or twitch.tv/dimpdigital. I promise you it's less than $1,600. Should open it up so that people can pay just a one-off. Maybe they want to give us $1,600, then we could buy one of these cards and not use it. So someone would use that. But we're going to transition now back to some game impressions. I'll let you choose this week. I think I did the last time we were here. I'm just looking at the timings. So let's go with, we've got Far Changing Tides, Forza Horizon 5, or Ultimate Control Ultimate Edition. Control selected by Logan. So you're going to hear Adkins talk about Control Ultimate Edition. Again, this was at the end of a heavy drinking session for me, so no idea what I was playing at. But there we go. We will see everyone on the other side. Here we are then, back for some gaming impressions to see out this week's Idle Game Chat. Got the Governors of Gaming here. Masters of the Gaming Click. Adkins, you're here to talk to us about Control Ultimate Edition. So
Waited for it.
This is a current gen if it's remastered. I think it has got more options graphically in terms of you've got a 60 FPS mode now, but you've got the DLC, I understand, bundled into it, etc., etc. So this is, and they call it the Ultimate Edition, but what you'd normally say is the definitive edition of a video game. You hadn't played it during its original run, as far as I understand, so you've actually jumped in at a good point here. So let's hear about your experience with Control Ultimate Edition. First of all, have you played the entire lot, including the DLCs?
No. Much to something I will talk about, which was rather strange. The inclusion of the DLC, but no, I didn't, unfortunately. No, because the way they're set out, they're quite hard. I found it quite difficult to decipher what was the DLC, and I found I sort of drifted into the DLC without even knowing. I was like, as anyone else would probably see that quite good, as it's quite seamless.
Yes,
I got to a point where I thought that what I was seeing from the DLC was part of the story. I was like, oh, I don't remember this being a thing. I've not heard of this before. And then later on was like, oh no, that was a DLC. I just drifted in without even knowing it. And then towards the back end of the game, I got the platinum for it because I was only a few away. I was like, right, I'm going to go.
Took the platinum without doing all the DLC.
Yeah. But I did use the DLC to leverage one trophy that I needed.
Oh, okay.
It was like you had to unlock all the skills, but I was struggling to get enough points from doing side missions or whatever from the main game, so I used the DLC. So I did dabble in both DLCs. However, I didn't finish it to the end. I sort of got up with it and left it half done, to be honest. But yes, I don't know why I didn't. I've played most of their games. What are they called?
Remedy.
That's it.
So for those who don't know, you've got Alan Wake, Max Payne, Max Payne 2, American Nightmare from Alan Wake, Quantum Break, the most recent outing, which was a Microsoft published game.
I bought my Xbox One with the Quantum Break bundle. It was on the day that came out. That's when
Bloody hell! So you didn't get an Xbox till that's 2016 that came out, and
when did that come? So 2 years later, yeah. 2014 they came out.
I think it's 2013. End of 2013. So.
Oh yeah.
2 and a bit.
Yeah. I was late to the party.
Master Race. That's what he said.
Yeah, all those years. So I don't know why I didn't jump on this. I sort of remember it coming out and it looked very cool and weird, but no, completely missed it for the old gen. Never touched it, and then it became available on PS Plus, I believe.
Yep, on what we call now the Essential tier.
Oh yes.
So now every time you have to dictate of what's like, which tier? There's 3 of the bastards. But yeah, this is one you could claim and stays in your library for forever until you just decide not to be a PS Plus Essential member. And I'd played through the original when it came out back in 2019. I really enjoyed it. I have to say I was a little bit salty when I saw that the next gen or the current gen version was coming, and then it went to PlayStation Plus relatively quickly in comparison, and I was like, cool, I wish I just waited to have this 60 FPS mode, because one of my major complaints on the original on PlayStation 4 hardware was the frame rate would get in a right old pickle sometimes when it all kicked off. Have frame rate issues being resolved in this Ultimate Edition whilst playing on a PlayStation 5?
They have indeed. Technically, this game was super sound.
Really? Because the ray tracing mode as well. If I'm not
there is
wrong.
that was the. I always say this with these type of games. I wish they did the Insomniac happy medium where you got a bit of both. Because I did play it on the 60 FPS mode just because once you go there you can't go back. But it's such a stylistic type game, like the setting and the style, the crazy sort of lighting in this game. There was rooms I'd walk into and I'd be like, I bet this looks awesome with ray tracing. Switch back, and I'd switch back and be like, yeah, look at that. There's like a room with fucking like metal in it or something. Can you see that would completely change? even like getting like an elevator, I got like changed the fucking back to ray tracing. Was like, this is amazing. And you go to walk, and I go, oh, hang on.
Yeah, you swing the camera around, and you're like, oh, mad.
Yeah, probably should have. I'd like to play this at 30 FPS and not really go for it. Just trying not to go back to 60, so you don't get that poison. But yeah, technically sound, this was brilliant, and it was a very nice looking game. It like when the sort of particle effects that you get off some of the cat, like when you kill the hiss, is it they call
That's
them?
it, yeah.
They leave like this sort of weird oil sort of residue behind, and it is a very strange game. But I enjoyed my time with this. I do have grievances. I don't think I'm as high on it as other people in the thing, such as yourself.
The fuck?
I found that
Technical
to the
masterpiece, you just got told. The only fault of the game, as long as you can
Only
read.
fault. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I found. We'll start off with a negative and then we'll end up on
Crap
on the
all over
positives.
it. Let's see
Crap all over it.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, I found the story.
How'd you mute people on this?
I found the story really convoluted and, to be honest, quite difficult to keep up with. To be honest, it was very strange. Like I like the world of the the setting that it was set in, this
The old house.
the old house, the Federal Bureau of Control.
Yes.
And it was like enriched in mystery. That reminded me sort of a bit like Lost. You remember the TV series where you sort of like, right, what is this place and what's going on? And to my discredit, I didn't read very much of the lore that probably would have felt out most of what my grievance I did have on it. But as the game sort of progressed in its story and sort of started to unravel what this was, I don't know why, it just didn't click with me enough, and I was just sort of like, well, it's just weird. This is, isn't it? I know Remedy games do have that type of thing. They have this weird sort of supernatural type systems throughout, but yeah, I think this is the weakest part of the game in my opinion. Is the story, the setting is fantastic. Like the way the world building, the level building, the way like you say, it's this old house at this setting, and it constantly can change.
It's a character in itself.
It literally is a character in itself, because you go through these missions. I'll footnote that to a technical point, I had a problem. I had to not a hard crash. I had a game-breaking bug that I had to lose about 4 hours settings.
What?
4 hours of gameplay because I had a crash.
You're joking.
But yeah, the story, like I say, it's good. If you're really ready to be invested, and like you say, like yourself, really read every single note and take all in the lore and
Every last scrap,
and really accept it for its real supernatural, bizarre, kind of Twin Peaks-esque. What was that TV show you wanted to watch?
Vikings.
Twilight Zones, was it?
Oh yeah, Twilight Zone. Yeah,
Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
It's got that sort of weird vibe about it. But yeah, it just didn't hit very much for me. But
and this is, I'm going off almost 3-year-old memory now, but I seem to remember like what happens in the game, as in the plot. I think is it Jessie? Her name is
Jessie. Yeah.
Like what happens, like the start of that to the finish of it, like what she's overcoming or what's happening. It is interesting, but it's not. Like you said, it's not the strongest point, but I did really love the sort of lore around
like you said,
what the FBC do, or what the AWEs are, all that sort of stuff. I was So even reading the notes, I was kind of like, that's what I was like, oh wow, this is really interesting. But I would agree that from Jesse's point of view of what you do in the game's narrative is a bit I can see where that is a stink.
Character-wise as well, I struggle to find
sexist now.
sexist. She's quite a cool character, and her
Liar.
brother. I quite like the story of her and her brother, sort of how they got in, sort of unravelled in this world and story. That was quite interesting. But side characters, like the one that really was like the caretaker. What was his name? Like
Yes, he's excellent, isn't he? The little janitor.
He's like the weirdest janitor. That's it, the janitor. He was like this really weird, like I think he's like Finnish or Swedish or whatever Remedy are from. One of them. But yeah, he was really cool. But other than that, like the other sort of side characters that you meet,
Finland.
Yeah, Finland. Is it Finland? Yeah, it's Finland, isn't it? Yeah, there wasn't very much memorable characters that I was like, oh, they stuck out. They were cool. They were sort of just run of the mill, sort of side questy giving characters that were serviceable but didn't stick out. But no, I really quite liked Jesse and that, like the conversations that you have, especially like as the story progresses and the secrets are unveiled and stuff. It was interesting, but I think the meat and potatoes of this game is in its combat.
Yeah.
And what I'd also like is the fucking physics. It's almost like, what's it called? The scope of the, what is it, physics or destruction?
Yeah.
When
you just like slash your telekinesis across the desk and all this fucking paper goes everywhere and the desk fucking bright. Yeah. I mean, I can understand why it tanked the frame rate on PS4 sometimes, but to play that, it's on. I still have got unfinished business, and I'm Breath of the Wild's the last part of that. That's almost a lie because I've got other stuff I want to replay, and this is one of them, the Ultimate Edition of Control, because just playing that in a smooth 60, because when the action's kicking off, it's just it's a joy to.
It's fucking brilliant. Once you start to unlock those powers and stuff, when you become like a daddy, you're getting all your skills, and you can fucking use your shield, you can levitate, chuck fucking shit around. It's fucking incredible, like how that holds up and solid 60 is brilliant. And you do, it helps with exploring as well. And that's what I keep going back to the level environment, like the level design in these games. They are so different. Like even though this is set in one building, they make it so you're in different zones. You're in fucking like swamps and fucking not swamps, but like mold-ridden caverns and shit houses.
Yes,
it's incredible. But combat is just fun. It's quite challenging in some areas. You know, like when you're getting fucking bombarded by one of them fucking like balls of energy that fucking just like drain your life if they get near you.
Yeah,
oh, they're horrible. Them fucking things. Yeah, but it was just the combat and unlocking the skills and going through the bosses and stuff. You had like these sections. What was it called? You went like as you learn these new like abilities and stuff. You'd like practice them, and like the astral plane. I think
that's it. The astral plane. That's it. Like a little tutorial.
The same that was in that astral chain. It was. I don't know. I assume Astral Chains nicked it off of this because it came first. But that is exactly the same. It was just like an anime version of this.
Yes.
But yeah, it really did. It just sort of added another sort of, another fucking use to your arsenal. You really could change up the way you were playing. Yeah, definitely combat, and that fucking like destructive element of how nice the game looked. That was top totty. It was.
Yeah.
The DLC. It seamlessly went into it. I honestly thought it was part of the game. Was it
like noticeably harder than what? Because my worry about when they do things like that, where it seamlessly blends in, is that it's designed for people that have played the game, put it down, and they buy a DLC, but they're playing it as the top dog, big bollocks, overpowered Jesse.
Yeah.
Did you ever get that, or was it quite?
No,
it fit in so well that it wouldn't have mattered.
No, it must. Yeah, because you remember the enemies? They always have like a little number on top of it. Level. Well, yeah, because I was sort of just going through the main missions, and it was how they do it. There's like I don't know if you remember. There's like a section in the game where you had to go to an area, and it was sort of like a crossroads.
Yeah.
And you crossed over to the road, but this section here was blocked off.
Okay, so it's like this whole new area or facility.
Oh, it's a whole new area. But so I went and done the normal route,
And then
but instead of the game taking me back to where it should have gone to carry on, it just took me to the DLC as if that was the next step of the story.
did it make
And
sense or not really?
It did make sense, to be honest, because it was
Okay.
in the same area, so it's almost as if it should have been there from the beginning.
Cut
And they
content.
slotted, so it pretty much was cut content. But because I had no idea about it, it weren't until sort of the story beats started happening, and I was thinking, hang on a minute, hang on a minute. And then I
Yeah.
started looking and realised I was popping trophies, and I was like, where they gone? And then I looked and saw I was popping them for the DLC, and I was like, oh shit, I'm in the DLC.
Yeah,
So no,
dirty
it wasn't. No, it
bastards.
wasn't that. I assume it just scales to wherever you are, and accordingly does it that way, which was quite neat, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, so done that one, and then the other DLC wasn't. That was very much go here to start the DLC, whereas this led me to it.
Yes.
So yeah, but no, it was good. Yeah, like I said, technical thing. It was after the game. After I'd finished the game, I was going for the platinum, so I had to go through. It was like clearing down all these side missions. And do you remember when you get into a room, and it would be all red,
yes.
and it
Yeah.
would be all like fucked, and then you had to kill all the enemies, and then you go to the control point, and
That's
it would
it.
bring the thing. So it like glitched. So the room was just red, and I'd kill all the
Checkpoint.
enemies,
You can-
and it would stay, and I couldn't get out of the room. It blocked the whole room. I couldn't get out of the room, so I was just locked in this room, and I was like googling it and watching fucking YouTube videos. I was like, it was like, do you remember there was like a side mission where you had to like collect like a note that was like flying across the room?
Yeah.
It was that, and it went into this room that was behind this block, that the block had moved, and I was like, I can't get to it. How do I get to it? And then I like watched someone playing it. I was like, well, so when he does it, that's how you get to it. I was like, well, I can't unlock the control point, so it just blocked. So I played like 4 hours, and I had to revert my save back to the end of where I completed it.
That's
And
bad.
I was like, well, that's fuck's sake.
So,
that was just like
I'm trying to could there have been a situation there where you'd had to have done a full restart? Or does the game
Potentially.
save in like how I can't remember how the saving functionality works. This is why those small details about saving in separate slots and auto
That's what I think
saving
it was.
is important.
I think because I had two saves, I had a manual save and an auto save, so I had to revert. And luckily, I
to your manual save or
to my manual save, and that was just before. I think it was just after I'd completed the game, and it takes you back to that main area that you're in.
yeah.
And then I went in, so that's what I did. It took me back to that main area, went into a room. I think it was called like Dead Letters or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But it shouldn't have made the room all fucked up like that. I'd unlocked that area, so it'd have been fine. But it glitched out and thought I was playing it for the first time,
Right.
and then just fucking went mental and then wouldn't saw it. So I was just like, oh, I can't do anything. I can't go any. I couldn't go back and fast travel out because it blocked every fast travel point.
Yeah.
It was insane. But yeah. So that was a bit of a stinker. But no. Yeah, it's a unique game. It's almost unlike anything I've ever played, really, in terms of its story and setting.
Yeah.
It plays very much like a typical Remedy game. You know, it definitely is enriched in their DNA. Yeah, I just found that story-wise was a bit too convoluted for me, and
Too up its
you know,
own arse.
bit up its own. Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Why have I said that?
But
Okay.
no, there's definitely. It'd be interesting to see if they do a sequel to this, because it certainly has. Like, it's a great footing for what could be a good, an awesome franchise. They could go fucking nuts with it.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, Jessie's a likable character. It's another strong female character. What we are lacking.
Well,
Aloy and Lara running the gauntlet.
yeah, are there any others? Abby.
Not to-
Um,
oh yeah, Abby, yeah,
and
Abby
Ellie.
Ellie, yeah. There's hundreds.
Fem
Equality,
shit.
They don't need it. Fem shit. She got lucky and they got her own front cover. Yeah, they
Monster
don't need
Hunter
equality.
female character. There you go.
Yeah.
Loads of these enriched, empowered women.
Exactly that. But yeah, no, I enjoyed my time with Control. It almost felt like a bit of a tech demo in that destruction thing, just
Yeah,
with
it's
how
fucking insane,
nice
isn't it?
nice how it would look and the shit you could do. Like I was just constantly going into rooms and just destroying everything I could. That fucking false punch,
Yeah,
like the melee,
yeah.
just fucking destroying everything. Like the boxes as well, like the mods and stuff you'd get for the guns. That's something going. Like the way the gun worked was wicked as well. It just sort of like twisted and fucking molded into something else, and then you could add like mods onto
That's
that.
it, yeah.
Then you had like personal mods that you could change. You sort of increase your stats for energy and stuff like that. You can really play around with it and sort of build a sort of, I suppose, a build. It's not really any. It's not like an RPG. It's a box standard skill tree you get, bit of health and that. But
health.
But yeah, no, I liked it. It's definitely its setting and a mystery are its strong points as well as its gameplay.
Yeah.
But yeah, just didn't hit the high echelons I was expecting. And this is obviously a thing for me because people really do rave about this game. They talk about it as one of their best games ever and stuff. So you could play this game.
No, if I'd lost 4 hours progress on any game, I would absolutely be fuming.
That really did. I was livid and I was almost close to chucking the fuck. I think I was at like 96% or something at the platinum as well.
Yeah.
I knew I'd only had a couple of hours left. I was like, look, I want to get this done so I can get back to Horizon. I caused myself some more misery.
That would sour my opinion.
And then,
absolutely. That's the name of the game.
That's it, yeah. I like the puzzles in this game as well, actually. The hotel, or motel, whatever it was. That was quite cool.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that little area where you doesn't loop around. Well, it will loop around unless you figure out what you've got what the idea is and where to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, there's definitely stuff in it that's great. The mystery, like I say, it had that sort of weird sci-fi, fucking Twilight Zone feel to it, which all their games do. Definitely one to pick up and have a go because it is unlike many a game. It's an original game, original piece, and yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm gonna give it. In my...
I'll get them keys.
Get the keys out.
It's open.
I'm going to give it a silver.
Lovely jubbly. Excellent. Control Ultimate Edition earns itself a lovely silver.
I should have really gone back and finished the thing, really. I should have...
Well.
I was sort of... It was one of those ones where... Because it's nice. It's not too long, to be honest. It's like in the old 10-hour... bracket, is it 10-15 hours I think I spent in it, but I did sort of start to try and breakneck it towards the back end of it. I was like, right, let's get this going. Come on in.
It's like 11 and a half hours how long Pete's got it down for.
Right.
All style 17 hours, which is close to how I do things because I have to fucking walk around rather than run and then pick everything up. But no, a lovely silver for Remedy and for Control Ultimate Edition, so recommended if that sounded like something you'd be interested in. But nothing more for us to say on this week's episode other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.